Are you familiar with the law of polarity? Now, before you go, "Ugh, wait, is she going to get woo woo on us?" Let's look at the woo woo in a way that actually makes real world sense. So, the law of polarity says that everything is created as a whole. You see my front side right now. You know I have a backside. For up, there's down, inside, there's outside. That means for every question, there's an answer. Oh, but why don't we see the answer? Because we haven't progressed into the identity for the answer. That means that for pain, there has to be the ability to move into progress when that pain is given a purpose. How about for those of you who procrastinate because of desired perfection? What's the opposite of that? Direction. It's one of the ways I break it with my clients. Pick a direction and move. Okay. So the law of polarity says that everything has two sides to it, which means that we have a wounded side and we have a whole healthy, wealthy side. And you are going to create from one of those. See, that's the number one law of the universe. Yeah, another universal law. The number one law of the universe is more life. Everything is seeking fuller expression. But that expression can show up as growth or it can show up as decay. Disease is more life, but over on the decay side. Growth is what we go through whenever we're looking to produce an upgraded result in our life, which is the only reason why we pick goals. It is not for the accumulation of stuff or experiences. It's who we have to be in order to have that stuff or that experience. Goals are simply the vehicle that we use to drive to our next level of development. But you're going to create from your wound or your wealth. So that's what we're talking about today. And so let's look at what it means to create from your wound. We're going to go over what 4 or 5 of these. We're going to go over abandonment. We're going to go over invalidation. We're going to go over rejection, unworthiness, and knowledge. All of those would be the wounded side. Now, I'm not going to get into today how we became wounded and what happened that we continue to create from that side. I will tell you, I am putting together a very special workshop that will be on demand. You'll get to download it so you can save it to your success library. It will be yours forever. You'll have a workbook that goes along with it, PDF form. And if you're on my list, if you signed up for your free hypnosis session and allowed me to let you know about other things I have coming up, you're going to get this workshop for less than $10. Why would I do that? Because I need to lower the threshold for your next step into success. See, way too many times we take that threshold, we set it too high, and then we're having to climb to get over it. And something known as decision exhaustion takes place to where we no longer have the bandwidth to continue to hold in our focus what it is that we want to experience as far as our identity upgrade, and then we give up before we get anywhere. Okay, so let's move on to creating from your wound or your wealth. And the very first one we're going to talk about is abandonment. I was talking with a potential client last night, and she's going to be an outrageous success. How do I know? Because her time zone was 12 hours different than mine. So she was actually up and functional with words at a time in the morning where I'd begun, no, I need water and I need fresh air and don't ask me to do anything else. She was willing to put forth that type of effort. So, anyways, she was sharing with me she doesn't have a relationship like what she would want. And I'm hearing symptoms. A lot of times we confuse with effects and cause. Effects are the symptoms. And what does she need to do to get into a better relationship? And I'm thinking to myself, there's something that's caused all this. And then she just offhandedly remarks about how her father was never around when she was growing up and how that made her feel. That's abandonment. Yeah. So, by the way, it shows different for everybody whenever we're looking at symptoms. So, this is the reason why I'm giving you all the different levels that there are in being wounded. So, you can pick the one that seems to resonate the most with you. I don't do therapy for you. I create the space and place for you to do it for yourself. You don't need me telling you what to do. You need me doing a transfer of power, a transfer of authority, where I give you the process and system. And I'm like, you tell me. I don't want to have to pick. But it was pretty clear on this one. It was abandonment. And how would that show up is that she would have someone in her life that was a potential partner, and she would be doing, okay, what do I need to do to pay my own way, to make sure that they're comfortable, to be able to take care of them so they don't leave me? But the very action she was taking was pushing people away to where they'd want to abandon her, which is usually how it goes when we create from our wound. I shared with you in the last few days that there are 3 components to a belief, and unfortunately, we're only taught 2. We're taught a belief is something that we've accepted as the truth. It's first component. And then the second component is we act on that belief. So if we've been abandoned, oh my gosh, yeah, we're going to do everything we can to try to keep people from leaving us, but then we're always going to feel like we're not enough. Hey, here's the news. We're never going to be enough. As long as we're here, we're always looking for growth and for the impression of increase. Everybody you touch should be better off because you were in their life. Now, this is not all, as my one client says, how she put it, rainbows and smiley faces and clouds and kittens, something like that. No, sometimes impression of increase is me going, you just crossed a boundary and there's going to be consequences for that. Because I did increase the quality of their life. I am holding them accountable to be functional if they're going to stay in my world. And if they're not, they got to go. Okay. So back to the woman that I talked to last night. What is on the other side of abandonment? Security. Security says, if it is to be, it is up to me. See, this is the missing component of beliefs, that in between something that we've accepted as the truth and the acting on it, is it worthy of us? Oh my. See, we've been running around going, how do I prove my worth? And one of the wounded ways that I'm going to be sharing with you today, I'm going to be talking about myself in that same area. Okay. So is this worthy of me? Because if you don't treat yourself as valuable, then you will give to get. And there are times when we give to get, but more frequently than not, we give because it's the full expression of ourselves. It's who we are. Now, who we're given to, they've got to earn the right to step up and get more of us. But if we give dysfunctionally, we will attract dysfunctional takers. And even if someone is a healthy person, Because they're around us and we are disordered, dysregulated, and dysfunctional in our actions, we will trigger them to step down and be disordered, dysregulated, and dysfunctional. Very rarely will they stay in our environment, keep inviting us up. If they stay in our environment, they will wind up stepping down. Okay, so security says if it is to be, it is up to me. Then the next one is going to be invalidation. I'm not taking these in order, by the way. There is a particular order. I'm taking it on people that I've worked with. This was just this morning with one of my clients, to where looking for people to surround himself with that are also other truth seekers. And the reason why we see this show up so much in relationships is because we cannot grow outside of a relationship with other people. Our brain is wired only to experience what's known as spiraling up if others are involved, or spiraling down, because the law of polarity says it goes both ways. So invalidation says, oh, I'm really concerned about being accepted. So what I'm going to do is pump everybody up around me, make them feel great about themselves, let them know that they can achieve this. I will be their cheerleader. Well, you know what that attracts in? That doesn't attract in other cheerleaders. That attracts in people who will weaponize that virtue against you. They'll make it seem like, oh, yes, it is a great fit, because they're professionals at manipulation. And that, oh my gosh, yes, that you are exactly what they were looking for. And then they will gradually devalue you. To where you're going, wait, what? I thought I was doing this correctly. They were telling me how wonderful I am. And all of a sudden, they're causing me to question myself. I'll try even harder, to where they wind up taking the best parts of you and leaving you bonded to some trauma. Now, what's on the other side of invalidation? It's love. Mm-hmm. We're taught to connect to other people, and them being a hot mess in place of love. And keep in mind, what does scripture tell us? Love your neighbor as yourself, which means you can't give away what you do not possess. And if you see something in someone else that resonates with you, it's known as mirror neurons, you hold the potential for it. But it has to be placed in the correct environment for it to take root. And that environment, one of the things that are needed for seeds is they need some sort of soil or container. They need water, but they need warmth. And that's where the love comes in. Okay, so invalidation means that you give to people who will take the best parts of you and weaponize it and use it against you for their benefit, and you wind up paying the price for their success. Okay, next one we're going to talk about is rejection. And this was a client that just completed with me, who had been fired from their job months earlier and just couldn't seem to get the motivation up and moving and getting back out into the job seeking world, because they felt they had been rejected. And now, because one of the 4 P's of learned helplessness is taking everything personal, well, now they're going to reject themselves. By the way, what are those 4 P's? You're going to make everything personal about you. It's not. It is going to be pervasive. It's going to infiltrate every area of your life. No. And for most of you, you are peak performers. That's one of your gifts, but you have to put a boundary around it so it doesn't leak out into other areas where you don't need to be peak performing. It's permanent. It's always going to be like this. That's because the younger you who had this happen to them, where they experienced an imprint that is now holding them back from maturing and moving forward with all aspects of your identity. They didn't have the ability to have vision and see forward. And then the fourth P is power over power under. You will symbolize within your own mind, you're really small and tiny. And then this problem that is unsolvable, by the way, to the part of your personality that experienced it, is looming over you. Now, I finished with this client, and by the end of our 4 sessions, she has some really great prospects and interviews. And then I saw her do something, and I cautioned her on it. Some of my clients decide to stay with me. Some decide that they're complete for a while. I have clients that actually have stayed with me for years because we have identities. We have goals that they're setting because there are identities that they're developing. It's not about, oh, I'm broken, flood, and I need to be fixed. No, you're not. You developed some very disordered, dysregulated, and dysfunctional ways of coping with life because you went through some things that you should never have had to have gone through. Okay, so we upgrade. So what she was doing is she's like, I'm going to put together an accountability group to where we're all going to share something that we're moving forward on, and we're going to keep each other accountable. I will tell you right now, accountability partners don't work. Now, there are those of you that may go, oh, I've had one work. No, you didn't. It was transfer of authority and transfer of power because one of you stepped up as the leader and transferred over to the other person. That's what happened. And very rarely does it go both ways. It's usually one person giving and the other receiving in that type of relationship. So she is going to what is safe, because when we experience rejection, that's what we look for is, oh my gosh, what do I know? So she's surrounding herself with friends that in this accountability group that did they get her off her butt and get her into getting a new job? No. So she what she's wanting from this group, she's not going to be able to get. She needs freedom of choice. Freedom of choice says, I need to begin to use Pareto's principle on my behalf, the 80-20 rule. This means for every 10 things I do, 2 are going to work, 8 are not, but those 2 will be outrageously successful, which means for every 10 friends you have, 2 are going to have more success than the other 8 combined. Yeah. So freedom of choice says that failure is part of success. And instead, she is going back to what will not reject her, instead of having someone who is challenging her and going, yeah, I think you need to have more choices. The choices I gave her were in 4 weeks, she had to put in 100 job applications. Yeah, like choose everything you come across, because you got to have 100 of them. Now, why would I do that? Because out of that 100, let's look at Pareto's principle and the freedom of choice. 20 are going to be viable. The other 80 are not. 1 out of 5. And that's viable. That doesn't mean necessarily going past just having a phone interview. So, Look at, are you experiencing rejection, invalidation, abandonment, or might it be unworthiness? Unworthiness is where you are constantly having to prove to other people that they should be around you. Oh, absolutely exhausting. So, maybe 20 some odd years ago, when I first started my business, that first year I was working like 80 hours a week, maybe 100 at times. I made $7,000. Why? Because I was giving myself away for free, hoping that people would see the benefit in working with me. I understand my value now. I still know that I have to earn the right to be in your life, but not based on here's my worth. And instead, are we a good fit for each other? Is there a rapport? Do we seem to overlap in our values? So if you're feeling unworthy and it'll show up as relationship bargaining, you will do things for other people that they should be doing for themselves, and you won't even bring it up because you think if you give, that they'll see how phenomenal you are and at some point give you the crumbs of the worth that you never received whenever you were younger. What you really want is security. Security says that you partner up with someone else. And between the two of you, you create something greater, something more magnificent, something more brilliant than you could alone. That's that whole relationship growth thing. So what you're really looking for is to be able to create from your wealth of security. And then the last one I'm going to touch on is knowledge. Yeah, okay. This is a challenge because you are growth minded. It's the reason why you're watching the videos and listening to the podcasts and reading the books and taking the classes. But knowledge simply means that you've memorized something that you can regurgitate later. It's what they taught you in school. You think that if you answer enough questions right, you get promoted to the next level. Yeah, you do. You get promoted to the next level of solving problems, not designing a life. It's two different areas, love, polarity. So, yeah, keep solving more problems, okay? Creating from your wound or create from your wealth, which is designing a life that you want to experience. But to be able to do that, you have to bring in wisdom. And wisdom says that you are learning from failing forward and failing faster, because failure is the law of polarity with success. You have to have failure, because without failure, you don't need to know, or you don't know what you need to fine tune to make it fit you. Oh, see, that's the problem with knowledge. You keep trying to make yourself fit the process and the system, and instead it needs to be customized to you and what's unique about you. And that only comes from finding out on the 80-20 rule what's not going to work, and then having somebody in your life that does the transfer of authority, transfer of power, and says, here's the process. Here's what you need to know about you. Okay. So I don't know which one of these is your wound, and we can have different wounds in different areas, but there is a goal that you're wanting to go after right now. And the reason why is because that area of your personality is ready for progress. Man, they want to move forward so quick and so fast. But the aspect of you that says, no, we can only achieve by working harder and longer and putting in more effort and having it more painful than anybody else, because that's what you were taught, to weaponize the best parts of you against you and be manipulated for somebody else's magnificence. That part of you is continuing to operate under the original contract. If you're ready to rewrite that contract with terms that are going to take you to the top, because it's your contract, you get to write it in a way that brings out, oh, life just being wonderful, I'd be happy to assist you with that. So until we get together again, keep this in mind. Success, yeah, that's just the journey. The destination is who you really are.